Hello everyone, welcome back to another interesting mock interview. We are going to cover JavaScript in this. So this is another episode of Chakde Frontend interviews. So we have Prakshat with us. He has just started his career, like he has around 1 year of experience, and we are going to grill him basically and see the real JavaScript basically with a lot of interesting things. So with that, let me quickly call Prakshat. Hey Prakshat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Chirag. So I have 1 year and 10 months of experience as a front end engineer at Walmart, and prior to that, I was working as an intern. And there
Oh,
also, I was contributing in front end only.
great. So I think then we will have a lot of fun while solving the problem statement. So with that,
Sure.
so I want everyone to watch this video till the end because there are a lot of interesting thing for everyone. So please keep on trying those problem statement by pausing the video, try attempting and sharing your solutions basically on the comment. That is going to help everyone. So with that, just hit like and comment below before we get ahead. Let's go ahead, Prakshit. There is one interesting problem that everyone have seen is all about the data size. So if you have a very big file, you can't just upload that big file in a single shot, right? Similarly, if you have a huge set of data that you have to handle, sometimes it becomes difficult, like all the huge set of data can't be handled at the same time. What we generally prefer? We prefer reducing that into chunks and leveraging that chunk. We have to implement something similar to that. So what we are going to do, we are going to implement a function called chunk. So this is what you are going to implement.
Okay.
So what this chunk basically will do, we are going to provide some arrays to you, and you have to basically chunk it based on the size. Simple, right? So if you see on the left hand side, you have chunk, you have arrays, and the intent is basically chunk one, the size of one basically, right? Similarly, in the second one, it is chunk based on two size. Similarly, in the third chunk based on the three size. So you see one, two, three basically in single chunk, and rest until unless it is having a minimum three, it will become a second chunk or whatever it is, rest of the item, right? Similarly, you see five, four chunk, five chunk, and whatnot. So this is a small function that is expected from you.
Okay. So what I can do here is I'll just iterate. I'll just iterate over the arrays the moment I find the moment I see the chunk size. I'll start with a new array. Basically, I'll keep a mini answer with me, mini array with me, and I'll keep a output array with me, output array. That will be basically final result, or we can say this as a result. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'll just iterate over this array. So I'll get an item from here. Okay, so what I'll do is that hmm, well, I can use for loop as well. Dot length I plus plus, and what I'll do is let mini answer is equal to this thing, and what I'll do is I'll just check the size of mini answer.
Mhm.
If mini answer dot length is equal to size, what I'll do is I'll just push this in the result.
Okay.
Mini answer. Else, what I'll do is I'll push the current element here. Okay, so let me just iterate. So this will handle these cases. One, two will get pushed here. In the next iteration, it will get pushed, but it might break here because this is not having. Mm. So what I can do here is I is equal to array dot length minus one. If this is the last index, then also we can push. Uh, this is I'll try running this code. Okay, I'll have to run this, or will it
So you
run?
can execute, but before we execute, let's do a dry run, right?
Okay.
So let's try to do a dry run on the first example itself, test case that we have.
Okay. So one second. Uh, what it will do is it will push, and eventually I'll have to reinitialize it with an empty array.
Okay.
Okay, so what it will do, when I'm iterating, I see one, and I will push one in the mini answer.
Mhm.
And when I'm coming here, mm, when I push one, it will get pushed here. And in the next iteration, when we see two, this condition is fulfilled and the result is empty, but we are not pushing the two in the mini answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will break. Okay. Mm, mini answer dot push array of I if mini answer dot length is equal to size. What I'll do, I'll push result dot push mini answer, and result is equal to uh, not result, mini answer is equal to empty array. Okay, so once I push one, it will check if nonce. I'll push it and I'll reinitialize the array, and two will be pushed, and this with this test case will work fine. See, 1 2 is pushed, and this is reinitialized with empty array, and it is pushed. Okay, else if if I is equal to hmm, or we can write it here only. Either way, if
Mhm.
we are in the last index,
Mhm.
then I'll push the whatever the mini answer that we have accumulated, and eventually we can just, let me just see if this works fine. Uh, when I is equal to 0, 1 is pushed in the mini answer, and it is not fulfilling the if condition. In the second iteration, 2 will be pushed in this mini answer, and when we see 3, okay, this might, okay. No, when we are pushing 2, this if condition will be executed,
Yeah.
right? So 1 2 will be pushed, and in the this mini answer will be reinitialized.
Mhm.
And when we see 3, again this 3 and 4 goes the same way.
Mhm.
And when I see 5, uh, 5 is pushed in the mini answer. This condition is not getting fulfilled, but this condition is getting fulfilled. So this result will be pushed, and eventually this mini answer will be pushed in the result, and eventually we'll have the result. I'll just check it for this. Hopefully this should work fine now.
Let's run it.
Okay.
We can actually do one thing. I'm just doing a console log inside instead of the outside.
Okay.
Else I have to write multiple console.log. Yep, go ahead. Hit. Let's see. Okay, this seems to be working. Yeah,
Let me just verify. This is 3. This is working fine.
perfect. So help me with one thing. Do you see any issue with this way of actually reinitializing the array?
I don't know exactly if this will create any problem, but if this is what we should do.
Okay, let me take a different example. So I will show you a difference. Can you do a control that go back to the initial state? Okay, let's understand what exactly you are doing over here. Okay, so you have, say, suppose thousands of items inside your result, basically, right? So when I say result,
Mhm.
the initial value that you are having in the array are 1,000, and I'm saying you create a size of chunk of one. So it means consider example how we are actually performing. So you have a box, right? And in box you have to measure something, and you have to put, maybe take an example how milk person, basically, who comes, milkman, what we call that person, I do. So I think that we call it, right? So he
Mhm.
uses his container in order to measure 1 liter of liquid. Okay, you measure it, and you pass it down to the other container. You measure it and pass to the other container. In this case, what you are doing, with every measurement, you are bringing a new container, like the new you can say jar, in order to measure it. So what you are doing,
Sort of, I'm creating a new jar.
you are essentially doing it, you are actually having 1 milk, no doubt, but at the same time you are actually having those thousands of, you can say, jar basically being used, where you are saying, hey, garbage collector, please go and take care of all of these, please recycle it, recycle it, recycle it. Do you see the problem what I meant by? Now if I click
Hmm.
the side, what you are actually essentially asking your garbage collector to do, hey, I've created so many arrays, basically dangling arrays, where you can please go and take care, because we don't have any references, right? So you see the challenge, essentially what I meant by.
Hmm.
So do you have any solution for that?
Okay, so deleting an array before initializing it with, or basically
Can you
removing
repeat
the
the same array,
element.
what I meant by, in a most efficient fashion? Can
Hmm.
you use the same jar in order to measure the milk again?
We can use the same jar, but the basically instead of pushing it, I'll just do this way. Mini answer. Uh, basically, I'll maintain a separate variable for this, and I'll
Oh,
keep
but again, you
incre-
keep keeping on increasing the size, right?
No, no, no. Basically, I'll start the J pointer again with the zero
You are actually creating
size.
a mini array will also have the replica of the original one, right? So if I have thousands of record, then mini array will also have the thousands of record. It's just that the pointer will define from where to start and where to end, right?
No, basically, I'll keep J from zero to size, not exactly from zero to array dot length.
Which is correct.
So
So J will be from, which is true, but mini array eventually, if I say at the last iteration, what will be the size of mini array?
there it might
It will be
break
array of
because
length. It will be same length, right?
uh, no, like mini answer.
What you are going to keep in mini array?
Mini answer, let's suppose when I'm keeping this way zero,
Yeah,
and I'll basically I'll keep mini answer zero,
yeah.
and I'll replace it, I'll add one in the first iteration, and in the second iteration I'll do this way only.
Keep on replacing the value of the ith
Exactly.
index. But that's what you
Yes.
are basically saying, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
lot of algorithm and lot of thing that in order to ensure that
Uh-huh.
the
Mm-hmm.
iteration. So what you're saying, I will find a pattern, and that pattern will help me to replace the same set of items again and again and again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which essentially become tricky if I say I need a chunk size of 1,000 itself. So ultimately you will have 1,000 in that, right? So I will tell you one
Mm-hmm.
thing. If you are not right, there is something called dot length is equal to 0.
Okay.
This actually cleans everything in that array and help you to reuse the same array. Just hit
This I didn't know.
command and if see if that works.
Mm.
Does it work?
Is there anything that we break? Let me just
Oh,
check with
you
my.
added the line number 5, I think. Oh, hold on. Do a control Z. I think you added a line number. No. What was
I'll
that?
just check it with my solution if it was working fine.
Just double check.
It is working fine with this. With mini answer dot length is equal to zero. It is breaking with mini answer dot length is equal to zero.
Oh, why aren't we pushing it?
We are pushing it in at line number 5.
We have array. Somehow we are getting this regenerated again and again. Something is missing. We can double check on that. We have mini array. We are pushing that to array, and when this condition is met, we are actually cleaning the length. I'm just suspecting if it is an because of the array reference, we are getting this. Oh, we may be doing this. So you are pushing the same reference again and again. That's the problem. So if you have the new array being actually pushed, so it's not the same. Just do a hit.
Okay. So basically again we are copying it here.
So what you have basically, the one which is stored as a backup, those are new references, but the jar which you are using is the same. What does it mean essentially? These are different customers basically that you are having. They are bringing their own bowl. but what you are using in order to measure the milk is actually the same, which is mini answer.
Got it.
Make sense? Cool. So let's do something maybe simple, basic, which is very popular, but we'll see if we can find some tweak. So what I want you to make a small uh, debounce function.
Okay. So debounce function is sort of an optimization technique that is used in search inputs. We can see that getting used in Flipkart or Amazon.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah, go ahead.
what this essentially does is it uses a set timeout trick. Matlab basically, what we will do, we will pass a function in set timeout, and when the user hits the second keystroke,
Mhm.
we will have a basically a time period in which we can cancel the previous function. Let's suppose
Mhm.
if user is searching iPhone. So what happens when the user types I? So we call a function that will eventually call an API call.
Mhm.
That will eventually hit an API. And let's suppose user hits P. Now this if the result is sort of useless for the user. Whatever the recommendation the user is getting, he eventually knows what he wants to buy.
Mhm.
So what we can do, when if the user is fast enough before the API gets a result, we can basically uh, assume an average time, let's suppose 300 milliseconds or 400 milliseconds based on our business use,
Okay.
and we can cancel the previous API call.
Okay.
So what this will take an function, or let's suppose search function,
Okay.
basically search API call or whatever we can call, and it will take a delay.
Mhm.
Okay, so what we will do is I'll make an I'll store I'll eventually this will return an optimized version of a function,
Mhm.
optimized function. And okay, so this will eventually return an optimized function that will take some args. I'm using rest. I mean, why this is okay. Now this is fine. I'm using rest parameters so that we are able to cater all the arguments which user will eventually pass. Matlab the developer, not user exactly. And what I'll do, I'll call this search function in set timeout, and I'll pass the delay here, and I'll call the search function, and I'll spread the arguments here. Okay.
Mhm.
So what happens every time the user will hit the keystroke, the search function will be executed, but with a delay. So next time when the user is hitting P, right, what happens? We still have a chance to clear that function. So what will happen? It will clear this set timeout, but for that we need to store this ID somewhere.
Okay.
If I do let ID is equal to this, what will happen in every function call, this variable will be created, and the previous function call will lose the ID.
Okay.
So what I can do is I can make this as a global sort of variable for just for this function.
Mhm.
So we can use the closures here. This eventually will store this ID,
Mhm.
and if this ID exists, matlab basically if this timer is still running in the browser APIs,
Yeah.
it will clear it out. And if it is not running, it won't clear. Matlab basically the expected behavior that we want. Matlab, we don't have to write any condition sort of keep the timer is still running or not.
Mhm.
Clear timer will automatically manage it.
Okay. So will this work? By the way.
I'll just
So
check.
what I will do, I will just say, suppose I have a function called print. I want this printing to happen, right? And basically, what it does, nothing fancy. It's just data that you pass, and the data you are passing is something over here, right? So what we have, we are going to actually call this debounce function. So I need to I need this print to happen, which is your print to happen with a delay of say suppose 1 second. Then this one is basically, so what I meant by, now I wanted to get this print done, right? So I want this print to ensure that whatever delay we are giving, which is 1 second, if anything is within 1 second, as you mentioned, we are going to what we
Cancel
do
it.
basically cancel it, right? So with the debounce, you are ensuring that how many number of events that can happen in that particular duration is something which is limited, right? That's what you are ensuring. So this should work. Can we write some test case and try it out? if this is working as per the
Okay.
function that you are
So
using.
we'll have to, so basically this will return a function.
Mhm.
So I can say print optimized.
Okay.
Optimized is equal to, eventually we'll have to run this function. Okay. So the I'll test it synchronously only because we don't have any search input here, as
Mhm.
this is just a JS compiler.
Mhm.
Else I would have made HTML input
Mhm.
tag. Okay, I'll just re-verify it before I run it. So I'm
Yeah.
making an ID that is that will save, basically save it, and I am having a optimized function. This is eventually this function, and I'm clearing out the time, and ID is storing the set timeout,
Mhm.
and this is eventually running the search function that we are getting, and we are arguments, we are not using it here. Okay, that's fine. Hopefully this should work. Let me just,
Oh,
okay, so
won't print anything, right? We have to print something so that we
okay,
can.
we'll have to pass a date, we'll have to pass the data. So let's suppose I'm passing I, and so user is sort of typing very quickly. Eventually we should get only this thing,
Okay.
IPHO. Let me just run this. Okay, we are just getting IPHO. The reason being, IP is canceling this I, and IPH is canceling IP, and IPHO is canceling IPH. Although this, hmm,
Use case over here. My use case is basically, so because say suppose user may be typing something fast, and user is actually, so consider example, I am a person who is not just searching on something, but I am writing some article or whatnot, maybe using some chat GPT. I want some suggestions to be available, so that suggestions can be on top of a good statement, right, where you are typing, I don't get even an option to basically show some suggestion to you, right? So what
hmm,
I want the initial set of data, which is overall set of data, should be visible as soon as user start typing. So you're getting my point. I start typing, irrespective of what did you type. I wanted to show you global list of data, right? Maybe at your first stroke. At your first stroke, I wanted to get some data and showcase that data to the user along with the other search result, which is a debounce. If you have to achieve that, how you are going to do it?
okay,
Which is your
so
first enter, your first keyboard type is something which I want it to be considered. I don't want it
okay,
to
so
ignore it.
the first should be considered, and rest of the
Just
basically
follow that same
this should be outside. This should be handled outside the bounds, and from we should follow the bounds from here.
or you're saying you will keep it outside and the rest other.
No, this is the eventual state. Not, I'm not saying that, but I'm just thinking. This is what exactly we want. Okay. So what I can do here is, hmm, I'll just do let first is equal to, if this is first, true, and what I'll do is, if this is first, else then this logic should follow, and okay, I hope this should format. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just search function args, and first should be false. If it is first keystroke, then I want this should happen for, let me just, okay, so if this is we are having a first keystroke, it will follow like a normal function,
Mhm.
and the moment I'm making the first as false, the flag, eventually it will follow. So the next time user types IP, and it will follow the bouncing, hopefully.
Where let's execute it.
Okay, yes.
iPhone. Now I have one more situation for you. So what we have, so generally you mentioned the search function. These search functions are essentially what? Like it is a kind of a promise that you have. Like We generally make a fetch call, you get the data, based on that data you perform. Now, fetch calls, when we say these are promise, these are not time based guaranteed promise. It can take any time, right? Some queries can take less time, some can take more time, and whatnot. So, what I meant by these print statement are nothing, these are considered a promise, right? You have your maybe resolve, reject kind of a thing that you have, reject, and what you
Where you are typing, I am not able to see.
you will be able to
Oh,
do.
okay. I just expanded this print
So
function.
what you have essentially, this data is going to definitely come, but this data will come with a some random set timeout, right? So for testing purpose, what we can do, we can take this delay basically from the user itself, which can be any different delays. One can be 2 second, 3 second. Essentially, if this is a fetch call, then this will be driven from the network latencies and whatnot. And we wanted to print this particular data, right? So we print this data. Essentially, we resolve this data, right? That is what we wanted to do. So this is what we are going to do. Now the interesting thing is, with all the calls that you are making, I can say that hey, this takes 1 second, this takes 3 second, this takes probably 2 second, and this takes probably again 1 second kind of thing, right? Now the interesting part in this particular case is, so one thing to notice, the interesting thing what is going to happen, say suppose I make a delay, I say the second one is actually going to execute after some time interval, because user can actually take some hold and then a user is going to execute it, right? So this is going to execute after 2 seconds, which is this statement. Okay, where it went, this statement is going to take probably 2 seconds. Similarly, the other statements are also going to take some different time. So it's not going to be at the same time. So things are going to execute maybe this 2.5, and the delay basically is going to take 2 seconds sort of. So now what the intent is, you have APIs which are going to resolve at the different time interval, right? So in this case, what is going to happen? So say suppose the first API which you actually hit, it is in the network layer, it went off. It is going to take some time. The result of the second API actually came first, and the result of the previous actually came after some time. How you are going to handle that?
Okay.
So consider this is what user have done. So user have typed first one then IP after 3 second, and basically this is what user have typed, like IP and IP. Let me call it I4 after 2.5 second. This is going to take 3 second. This is going to take 1 second.
Okay. So the result of IP from our server is taking 3000 milliseconds,
Yes,
and but user is taking 2 seconds time to print it,
correct.
and our debounce function basically is having a the delay of 1000 milliseconds, and we are making sure our first is getting executed.
Correct.
Okay. So what will happen here? So, you want me to how we should handle this, or how my function will
How you're going to
execute?
handle it. So ultimately, what I want is as simple as, so because you have made a call, no one can stop it. Like it is going to execute after some time,
Mhm.
right? So if it is going to execute after some time, which is your search function, right? So it has triggered, but the result of it may come after the result of the next call,
Okay. So,
which is in this case, to be precise, if I make it 3200. So in this case, you will see at 2 second, because there is a delta from the first keystroke and second keystroke is 1 second, where this second IP is eligible to make a network call. Right now, the network call will come after 3 second. Now, what you did, you type again after a delay between 2 second and 3.2, which is again more than 1000 second, 1000 millisecond.
yes,
So again, this call will go. So there are two calls which went. One is 3 second, and second is 1 second. It is going to take time,
got it.
right? So essentially, what is going to happen? So if you have to visualize probably, so there's one, two. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. It is going to take 3 second. this call, this actually got hit. Maybe to simplify, this is at 3 seconds. This call started after, you can say, 1 second delay, because 2 second and 3 second there is a delay of 1 second, and it is going to take 1 second delay. So what is going to happen? You will get the result of this first, and then you will get the result of this. If you see
Okay.
the timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you want the result of this, man, because this is the last thing, last request which went.
Yes, yes. Okay, how we can solve it? I know, JavaScript concept that how we can solve it, but I haven't used it practically or in my company or in my side projects. Like I have heard of a bot controller
Okay.
uh, that might be helpful here, but I have not used it. So I'll think of a solution without it. What we can do here is,
It's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to know that if you are aware of that, because I don't have an expectation you go and implement the abort controller. It's completely okay. I just wanted to. So can you pitch in a bit about the abort controller? Like why you mentioned, hey, abort controller can help you over here. What you are going to do, like logically, forget about the syntax. What you are going to achieve using abort controller?
so basically, a bot controller will cancel all the previous API calls.
Mhm.
Basically, if a bot controller is implemented in any web app, we can see in the network tab that it is canceling the previous calls. I guess it is actually implemented in YouTube. So what they do, they cancel all the previous calls if they get any result from the fastest API. Matlab,
So as simple
I
as
get,
I want the result of the latest keystroke. Even I don't care if the previous keystroke basically takes a data after some time, comes tomorrow and whatnot.
Hmm.
That's a crap for me, right? I don't want. So hence, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, these are some signal ID which you can maintain and basically leverage that. Awesome. I like that. So, and people who are watching, if you don't know about the abort controller, go and try out the solution with the abort controller. I think you will enjoy. Perfect. Let's do one more. Shall we do it?
Yes.
Chalo. So what we are going to do, create a count function, right? Generally it says that, hey, I have to make a counter, which is straightforward. Let's do it, right? With a small tweak. So what we are going to do, you have a counter which is going to work as it is, as you know, which is good, right? So take this example in this case. Okay, okay. So take this example. You have a count. You execute it once, you will get one. You execute it twice, you are going to get two. You execute it thrice, you are going to get three. But it also provide a method to reset, where once you call it, again you can call count, count, count. So you have to implement essentially a function which is called count. That is what
Okay.
you have to simply
So
do.
is it a returning count or printing count?
It is returning.
Okay. So what I'll do is uh, I'll return an object that is sort of having uh, count as uh, 0. So
So
that's
remember, it gives you value as an outcome. So be mindful of that.
okay. Can I make a HOF higher order function out of it? That is giving us a count function. Uh,
Syntactically, what is given, you have to adhere to that.
okay, okay.
Like whichever solution sounds good, considering this is the syntax that you have. I will also tell there are a lot of myth to the people are say sometimes said that, hey, I can build it with adding some wrapper and HOC and whatnot, changing a making a class component and whatnot. Then what's the problem? I am able to do my job. You have to think one thing. There is an existing library, there is an existing utility function which is actually there in your system, which is being consumed by many of the people, right? Many of the applications, feature, product are actually consuming it. Now you're not going to go and replace that, isn't it? You have to leverage on top of it.
So this should give me 1. This should give me 2, and this should give me 3. Count dot reset should basically should give me a value, let count is equal to 0. Don't count. But every time I'm executing this function, this count variable
Mhm.
will get reinitialized.
Mhm.
Mm, count function, let value is equal to 0.
Okay. If you want any hint at any point, I can help you. So,
Mm,
your call. Yeah.
okay. As of now, I'm just thinking because I have implemented this sort of function using closures concept. For that, that's why I was asking if I can
Okay.
make a
One
HOF
thing,
out of
one thing we are aligned, we have to use something called closer over here. Perfectly fine. But the problem statement is, as you know, the closer works with the
with
concept of
HOF.
inner and outer function, right?
Exactly.
Good.
Mhm.
Adhering to this syntax and ensuring you have a closer is something an interesting problem. If you solve that,
Mhm.
you are almost near to the solution.
Return a function, but let me just create a function. Mm, But every time we're executing this function, how can I persist the previous value? That is something. Can we use global variable?
So if I wanted to have multiple occurrences, how you are going to do that?
That might break again.
Like, although I don't need a multiple occurrences in this, but I don't want it to
Hmm.
leak the information outside. Reason being, if I do, then I can change it from outside, right? So you
Hmm.
are saying count dot reset, at the same time I'm going to write the maybe your any reference to that variable is equal to 20. The next sequence will start from 21. We are leaking the information, security concept.
It will also break. It will also break. What I can do here is let I is equal to 0, return I. But every time if this is getting executed, I want this should be plus plus.
So this is an interesting problem to whoever is watching this. Give a shot, pause it over here, and trust me, before you see the answer, you should give a shot to this problem.
So if I'm executing this, I want a value. Let's suppose let computation. Computation value of I saw this sort of a question in Curry, but I'm not able to.
Shall I give you a hint?
I guess you'll have to.
Okay, let me help you on that. So let's break this problem statement. Okay. So the one thing which you know that somewhere you have to maintain the count inside, right? That
Hmm.
is for sure that you know. The second thing that you know that in order to maintain a count, that count should become a closer, which is it should not get overridden. It should only get initialized once. That is what the condition is. That is what you want. Now the problem statement is these kind of things are generally solved. You get a function reference back and then you execute the inner function, not the outer function. Exactly that is what we generally do. And the
Okay.
problem right now is I don't have option to create a function and get a revert back a function and then execute it. In JavaScript, there is something which helps you to execute the function then and there when it is created. What do we call it?
Immediately invoke functions.
Iffy. Can we use
If
Iffy over here in order to leverage the logic of maintaining the closure inside that and getting a function as a reference back and work on top of it.
Okay. So return if he.
Oh, do we write if we like this?
But I'm just giving a name. We write if is just like a normal function.
Okay, so then what's the difference? Why we call it if we?
The the moment we declare it, we invoke it.
Okay, go ahead.
Mm,
What need to be iffy? That's an interesting thing. Is your return need to be iffy or your function itself need to be iffy?
mm. Okay, so this is count as a function.
Like you can change the syntax. When I say it doesn't have to be a named function, it can be an anonymous function if needed. Like if that, okay, I'm giving you another hint if that can give you some glimpses or visualization of what could be done. Okay, let's see.
So you made an arrow function instead of a normal function. Okay. What we can do here is mm,
Okay, I will give you one more hint. Yeah, can we do utilize something like this and do something inside? Can you think of? I'm executing this count then and there when it is actually getting executed for the first time. Like what you have, a count is a function.
so sort of now count. This is a function,
Now what
but
we need to return from inside the count?
we
Give a
need to return a function because eventually
do,
user is
do return.
executing.
Do return a function. Then probably you will get a visualization of what we have to do. Now can you create a closure inside this?
Yes, now we can. Return count. So this will eventually, uh, this count is returning us a function.
In
This
terms of
function.
programming, I think you are doing one of the bad practice that we are following. Can you try to analyze in terms of naming convention one bad practice that you
uh,
are following over here?
what I should write counter I can write.
Okay, I like that.
Because the count, it ideally it should have been a counter function, but
No,
that's fine.
no.
Okay,
Now you
so
solve one problem. Now there is
no,
still one problem with you. Like we can execute this. You can write console.log and try to print your count before line number 5. Let's do it. You are not printing anything. I don't think you are going to.
okay,
Yeah?
I'll just do console log here.
Execute it.
This working
It
fine,
solves
but
one part of your problem. There is another problem, which is, dude, I can execute reset on top of it. Like, how come
hmm,
that is possible?
okay. So what is happening? This is count is returning us a function. This thing is returning us a function, but count, if we consider count, the it is having a reset functionality as well. Hmm, okay.
So the problem statement is, how can you return two things at the same time? Right? You're
But
returning function which was working. Now you're saying I'm returning reset, which is kinda you're returning an object, hence that is possible. Without that, it is not possible. How can you write count dot reset?
okay, count dot reset. So basically, we are trying to make reset as a method of count.
Yes. How that is
So
possible is a question.
count is basically returning us a function, which is itself a function. So count is giving us a function. The return value of count is basically a function. So I guess that should work fine, but I think is that required? matlab, we can add the reset in the count.prototype, but is that required? Not count.prototype.
Count dot
Uh,
prototype, then how you will access counter? Like, which is
okay.
to reset the counter, which is your closer, right? If you add in a prototype, it means which will work as a syntax, but it won't have access to the variable which is called counter.
But it will work only for the instances, not for the function
Yes.
in which I am adding. So prototype won't work here. Okay.
Okay. You need help? I am always here.
1 second, I'll just think of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
okay, from what I'm exactly trying to do this is uh, immediately invoke function, which is returning us a function. So this is working fine, but count dot where can I add this reset function?
Okay, I will give you one hint. So in JavaScript, we have heard that everything is an object. Is that true? Really true?
Yes, because everything in JavaScript is every function is basically combination of function plus object and
Ultimately,
object.
everything is object, right? So
Mhm.
is function also derived from object in JavaScript?
Yes, basically function dot prototype dot underscore proto is eventually object dot prototype
Which
only.
is, can I write if I have a function called test? So the one which you are writing below, were
Mm.
writing. So can I say test dot reset is equal to something? Can someone stop me? Can I assign a key to a function and assign some
We
other
can,
functionality to it? Can someone stop
we
me?
can. No, we can.
Can we leverage that technique over here?
So I guess for that I'll have to make it a normal function again.
Go ahead. Let's see. Give a shot.
Function.
Oh, do you wanted to tweak the outer one? Seriously?
No, instead of making this a no arrow function, I
Okay.
was just thinking of
Let's
making it a
let's come back. One again. Small hint. What you are returning
I'm returning a function
a
out
function.
of it.
So function, it meant it is immediate evoking, which means when you execute, then only the inner function is going to execute. Unless you don't execute it, what you are getting back? Like if line number
Uh,
13, if I print just count, what is
so
going to be count?
this will be function. Okay, so when I'm writing just count
What will be that value?
this function,
It's a
this
reference to
function,
the inner function.
definition of this function.
If this function, the inner function, can have a key which is called reset, will that solve your problem?
Function inner dot reset.
Oh, you wanna execute or define?
My bad. Okay, return inner. Okay, so this what will do count is equal to 0. So hopefully what exactly we are trying to do now. Okay, so uh, this count is eventually giving us this inner function, and now I have a reset functionality added to this inner function, which is eventually resetting the counter to 0. Let me just test this.
Did it
Mm,
work?
yes, it is working. A
Awesome.
good question.
Great. I like it. So yeah, I'm done with the sort of question that I have. We can always keep doing a lot of interesting thing, but before I go ahead and share some feedback about you, if you have anything to ask or anything to share, how did you like, by the way, interview?
Okay, the interview was very good. I've never seen this kind of question. I've practiced a lot of questions on many platforms, but this was a good question. Uh, yeah, the way you took interview and keeping it on the friendly, like I've seen many interviews that don't interact much. You were interacting and you were helping in between, so I liked it.
Awesome. Chalo, I will give a quick feedback about you. The way you started, the kind of a fundamental understanding that you have is great, right? So it's just that somewhere, because the problem statement, I try to start with the very simple one and try to take to the you can say the advanced version of that. If I see the simpler version of those problem statement, if I consider you as a fresher, a person who have 1 year of experience, you did a really amazing work. But I just wanted to see you at what level you can actually learn. So in some companies, in sometimes what happens, the interviews are not just dependent on the experience that you have. Sometimes they see a potential in you and they can give you a higher call, the upper higher call as well, which is higher plus plus kind of a scenarios also. So sometimes when you are doing good, your interviewer can actually take you to the next level to see actually are you a person who's actually leading toward the senior role or whatnot, right? So that's kind of a thing basically we do. So which I can see you are able to follow the hints and whatnot, but again, for a I will say to go into the next band, you may have to do a bit effort, but overall, what you are doing today at your level, at your band, the kind of experience you are having a amazing, you can say, knowledge and understanding. That's good to see that. Great. With that, I want everyone who's watching this share your feedbacks and everything comments about how did you like this particular interview. Second, I want you to tell if you are an interviewer of Prakshat, are you going to select or reject basically Prakshat based on the experience that we have gone through. So let's make it open discussion. I'm no one to actually judge in this particular case. So you are the right person if you are going to have Prakshat in your company. So what's your opinion? So with that, thanks a lot, Prakshat, for coming. And everyone who is watching, please share this video as much as possible so that people can actually start asking the right set of question in the right fashion. Let's make interview a discussion instead of a way to reject people. So it should be a way to hire people in order to see the right potential among people. So thanks a lot, Prakshat, for coming. And it was a very interesting discussion with you.
Thank you, Chirag, for having me on your channel.